Well, we're back with another episode of A Hunter's Legacy, the only podcast that interviews the average hunter, I would say. I don't want to say the bad hunters, just not the celebrity hunters. Who do we got here today?
My name is Callie Grubbs. I'm from Southeast Missouri.
You caught me at the perfect time, man. I posted looking for Facebook guests that were in states I haven't recorded from, and I didn't get any responses for the first 12 hours. I'm like, okay, I'll go back to some other people that were interested that I've already covered their state. And as soon as you signed up, I got swarmed with other people. I'm like, I better keep them on. So you got me at the right time, man.
Well, that's a good thing.
You bet. So fill us in a little bit about yourself, buddy. You talked about where you're from, but outside of hunting, give us a little background of what drives your passion. Then we can roll into the hunting in a little bit.
Um, what drives my passion which my biggest passion is habitat. I feel like I've probably went through all the stages of the hunting, and I'm at the stage now where I just love doing habitat work. Every little aspect of it, it's my passion. I enjoy it as much as I enjoy sitting in a deer stand. My background, I work for a food plot company. We're not here to do no sponsorships or promos or anything, but over the last several years, I've just tried to dive more and more because hunting is what I love to do. And it is one of those things, if you love something and you're passionate about it, you try to make that your job. Because I've done factory work my whole life, and I'm technically still doing factory work, but I just love the outdoors. I love every aspect of it.
What are you doing full time now?
I work for the food plot company full time. We started it up, we stemmed it off the ag side of the company, and I'm the operations manager of technically both of them, but I'm more focused on the food plot side now.
Okay. Go into a little bit detail of what you're doing as a part of your job. Do people come to you want to put food plots in, look for advice?
A little bit of everything. I talk to guys all across the US. Our main focus is your soil biology. Everything's always been about let's throw out fertilize. And as growing up, we had a livestock farm, so I knew a little bit about nutrition for beef cattle. And we started doing this stuff in the ag side, and I was like, hey guys, I've got an idea. And so we just kind of started incorporating all this into the food plot world where we focus on your soil microbes. Microbes lead to gut health. Gut health leads to a healthier deer herd, so on and so forth.
And what kind of response are you seeing from people with food plots? Because as somebody who puts in food plots, I'm pretty stubborn and don't want to pay somebody to tell me how to do it. So I'm just kind of curious.
That's the thing. I'm not your habitat consultant, so on and so forth. I'm the guy that you call when your food plot has failed time after time, or if you're just focused on something different with your food plot. If you're tired of doing the same repetitive thing, every fall we hit these droughts. What can we do to our soil to keep a drought from impacting us so hard? As far as response, started off, I had about 25 customers myself. I'm probably at about 150 now, and it stems from New York to Texas, Florida, everywhere.
That's fantastic. I wasn't trying to like bash people help out food plots. I know there's people that know a lot more than me. I don't want to pay for it, but sounds like there's all sorts of people that are out there that I grew up on a farm. I'm familiar with farming. That's part of it, but there's probably a lot of people that don't have that ag aspect that have the money that want the advice.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're not trying to sell you some high dollar program. For example, we got one product. It's a nitrogen blend product. Why go? Let me restart. When you go to put in your food plot, how often do you like to carry 50-pound bags of fertilizer that just keeps going up in price? You're out there with your broadcaster. It's hot. You're just spreading fertilize. Not everybody can physically do that. I can give you that 50-pound bag and a 2-gallon bottle,
Okay.
and I have a lot of guys that ask me, what should I do plant wise, architecture wise? I will give suggestions. My focus on this end is your input,
By liquid, are you talking biologics or just liquid form fertilizer?
both.
Both.
We have a line of all natural biological products, and we do have, because let's face it, you have to have macros to grow anything. You have to have your fertilizers.
Are you partnered with any seed companies?
I am, but that's another job I do. That I partnered with Domain Seed. On the liquid input side, we are partnered with Grant Woods. He's our main spokesperson, and I'll tell you right now, Grant Woods will put you through the ringer before he will do anything with your product.
What what company is he with?
Grant Woods is Growing Deer TV. Um, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, he's your celebrity guy.
Mhm. Well, if you're looking to help out a smaller seed company, I know of one. They got pretty good seed. They're just not well known yet.
There's a ton of great seed out there. There's a ton of great seed companies out there. You've had this idea in the hunting industry, and you do have companies that's done this. They put trash seed in a bag, put a deer on it, sell it to you. And then you've got this mindset with hunters now that all seed companies are that way, and they're just not. And there's a ton of great seed companies on the market. There's several that I will suggest to people.
Yep. Okay. No, that's interesting and that's awesome that you're getting that much business for people putting in food plots. Are you seeing a lot of business from, how do I word this without offending anybody? You have your, I won't say poor boys hunters,
I am your poor boy hunter. Yeah, I'll
but
just be.
the business you're doing, is it with people that have a lot of money or that don't have time? What's your
It's the whole
ICP?
it's the whole spectrum. I've got guys that buy, a half acre plot that they've got $50 that they can spend. We've got guys that can spend thousands of dollars. It's there's the large. I like the small guys. I'm the small guy. And that's what I do for people is build custom programs with the products dependent on what they're looking for. And I mean, we have anything from a $50 order to a several $1,000 order.
Then are you actually doing the work or just supplying the product?
Just supply the product.
Just supply the product. No, that's cool, man. It's definitely hard to get into hunting, the hunting industry, es- especially when you get like a niche area like that. So I'm glad you really kind of found your way in. I know I've tried it in a couple different aspects and it hasn't worked yet, but I'm trying.
That's all. I mean, that's all any of us can do.
I got
And
another podcast I'm starting up that I'm gonna have you on as a guest. You'd be a perfect fit, but you might not like the idea of what I'm doing. But
I'm a pretty broad range guy. You know, I'm I talk to a lot of guys, and like I said, I talk to guys that I can only spend this much. How can you help me? To guys that have unlimited funds, and I'm going to be honest, I'm uncomfortable with those unlimited funds guys. I grew up in a double wide trailer stacked on cinder blocks out in the middle of the country. I still live out in the middle of the country. That's just who I am.
tell us about how you got started hunting. Was your dad or family a big hunter?
My dad and my uncles were kind of your typical, 90s deer camp guys. Rifle season comes in Missouri. We hunt real hard opening day. We have fun at night. We might hunt Sunday. And I was interested in it. I wanted to do it. I wanted that time, with the guys. And I would get to go and I could hunt usually opening morning. And a few years that just was not enough for me. Back when I was a kid, we didn't have all this access to the hunting, information that everybody has now, which is wonderful. It's also it can be a bad thing as well. But I just started buying hunting videos, the old primetime bucks, the monster bucks from Realtree. That was how I learned to hunt. My dad, and I'm not dissing my dad here, but he didn't know how to hunt, and he honestly didn't have time or interest in learning. Theirs was the you go out there, you shoot the first deer you see, you go back to camp, and you celebrate.
They're out there to kill, not hunt.
Yes. And I can remember I killed my first deer when I was 13. It's the ugliest little fork horn still to this day I've seen. And I think it was 2 years later, I saved my money up and bought my first bow. It was like an old Martin Jaguar or something like that. I got it for $75. And the first comment I heard, "Why are you going to waste your time? You're going to go wound the animals." That was the mentality in my area towards bow hunters. You're just wasting your time. You're going to go wound something with that thing. I went out that first year and I was a doe killing machine. I think I had 4 landowner tags. I think I filled every one of them in 3 weeks.
Old Martin bow. What year was this?
This would be about 2000, 99, 2000.
When I bought my first bow, well, my dad got us a couple when we were younger, but 2007, I got my graduation money. Of course, what kid's going to use their graduation money to pay for college, right? I went out and bought a brand new, fully loaded Matthews bow. And the reason I laugh about that Martin name, because Martin was pretty big back there, is Matthews, PSE, Martin, Mission might have been coming around, and there's another one. And a lot of those aren't around anymore.
Yeah, this wasn't a go to the store and buy a new Martin bow. This was an old man in town had this. It was an older Martin bow. I had 3 arrows and not a single one of them matched. And I think I had 5 broadheads and every one of them was a different name company. It's just what came with the bow. And I just fell in love with it. Had the old rest on it, the metal 2 prongs that when you pull that aluminum arrow back, it goes, "Why?"
Oh, yeah.
I still to this day do not know how deer did not hear that every time.
And the arrows probably weren't that straight. I don't know how anybody trusted aluminum arrows.
Oh no, and I'd shoot a deer and I didn't know any better. Nobody was there to teach me. I was watching guys on TV. I'd shoot a deer with an arrow and use that arrow again in a week. I'd get off the school bus and run back. We had the old wooden homemade deer stands as a 2x4 between a forked tree you sat on, and I was just in it every afternoon.
You bring up the deer not jumping when it's
Yeah.
I don't think deer's hearing is as good as people say it is.
Sometimes I wonder. I have horrible hearing, but I could hear that, so I just never understood. With today's modern bows and technology, I'm like, man, that was really loud. It was really slow. I don't know how I killed deer.
When I was younger, once in a while I still get kind of bored, and it'll be close to dark and a little fawn will be under me. I'm like, just get out of here. And I'll just like break some twigs off. They don't even flinch. Like throw it down under them and they won't even notice. I don't think their hearing is as good as people say it is. I bet it's probably not any better than ours.
Yeah, I don't know. I try not to ask them when I'm out there.
You should try it sometime.
I mean, there's been a few times where I've hollered at deer to make them stop, and there's been a few times I've hollered at deer and they just didn't listen to me and kept going.
When you think about it, it's probably, let's say they're on the same level as us for hearing. They're just so in tune because you're in their house. If something sounds out of place, they'll probably pick it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their ears are way behind their eyes and nose.
Yes, yeah, I mean, a deer's nose is the hardest thing to beat. It is. They live by their nose just like a turkey lives by its eyes. I mean, you can trick a deer's nose about as much as you can trick a turkey's eyeballs.
Unless you're using a nose jammer. Shout out nose jammer. So you got started pretty early, and you're just tagging along with your dad, and you might have said this, but maybe I missed the connection.
I wasn't getting to tag along with my dad. That was back in the day where dad took you to a deer stand and dropped you off. Whenever he got done hunting in his deer stand, he'd come pick you up. It didn't matter if he was freezing to death by then or not.
Were you watching or hunting?
Oh, I was hunting,
Were you?
which I was 12 years old. I grew up out in the country. I mean, I was shooting guns when I was 8 years old. You know, it was here's your thing of 22 bullets, go out on the porch and shoot cans down in the yard and so on and so forth.
The connection going from out there with your dad, just out there trying to kill with rifles to, I know you said you went out and bought a bow, but what possessed you to go out and buy a bow?
Because rifle season wasn't enough for me. And I'm not saying that as, anything again. It just wasn't enough time. Rifle season in Missouri is 14 days. That just was not enough for me. That did not fulfill my needs. I wanted more time.
It wasn't necessarily that you had a group of friends that you hung around that were big archery.
Oh, absolutely not. And in my area, all the kids in school, they was duck hunting, which I did as well. But archery, honestly, in my area, archery was not that big of a thing. It didn't become big till probably, I would say 10 years ago is when it really went. That's when people started really archery hunting a lot. 10, 15 years ago.
If I were to pick a date range based off what I would see, I'd say between 2007 to 12 or 15 is where it just blew up.
Yes, I'd agree. By 2005, I was so addicted, I was going out and buying that brand new bow. And I think I killed my first mature buck. He wasn't a giant. He was just that he was a big bodied 9-pointer. And I shot him on October 3rd. And that made things so much worse. that, that was when I was like, holy moly,
This is awesome.
this is awesome.
How old were you when you shot your first forkhorn?
I was 12.
Right. Was that the first year you went out hunting?
That was the second year I went hunting.
Second year. Then how old were you when you got your bow?
I was 15 when I got my bow.
How long did you have to hunt with a bow before you got your first kill and your first bow kill or your first buck kill?
My first bow kill actually happened the year I bought my bow. And like I said, I mean, I shot like 3 or 4 does that year. My county was giving out antlerless bow tags to landowners like crazy. And by the end of it, Dad's like, listen, we don't even have any more room in our deep freeze. Do not kill another deer. But for my first buck kill, I think I was probably 17 when I got my first buck kill with my bow.
And when you shot your first buck, were you still in the mindset of a buck's a buck, or were you a trophy killer by then?
I was still in that mindset of a buck is a buck. And the more I started tagging, what happened? And I don't claim to be a trophy killer. A big deer in my area, if you kill a 150-inch deer in my area, you're the talk of the county. We just don't have those genetics. I like to shoot older class deer. I don't care what anybody else shoots. I'm not that guy. I'm not the give it a year guy. But I'm also not saying that because for the simple aspect of I want to kill this class deer. I just want to be able to be in the woods as much as I can. And I got efficient at killing 2-year-old, 3-year-old bucks. And I was tagged out by the first weekend of rifle season and I couldn't hunt anymore. And honestly, that's my motivation. I want to spend as much time out there as I can.
What age do you think you were just completely hooked? You mentioned that, I think you said it was a 9-pointer. Is that the hunt that just kind of got you hooked for life?
That was the one that made me say, hey, there's something really special about bow hunting. You get all this extra time. And for rifle season in Missouri, I never seen the natural movement of deer like you get to see during archery season. You know, you hear the whole Orange Army thing. I'm not I still rifle hunt to this day. I'm not just seen rifle hunting, but it seems like most of your deer are running around horrified. And once I started bow hunting, I got to start seeing deer. You know, deer were fighting, deer are being vocal. You're seeing them act like deer, and I was ate up with it.
It's a lot different sitting in a bow stand when they don't even know you're there and they're just living their day-to-day life rather than seeing them run at a dead sprint from one side of the field to the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think your dad was probably the biggest reason why you got into hunting?
I really don't know what my biggest reason was, other than the fact that I lived out in the middle of the country. There was nothing else to do. You know, there wasn't a kid right across the road for me to go play with. There was go out in the yard and find something to do. There, you can go mow the yard if you're bored. So you find things. You know, I started small game hunting. It was just something to pass time, and I just absolutely fell in love with it.
What do you mean small game hunting? What kind of hunting did you get into?
Rabbit, squirrel.
You eat that stuff?
I do. I don't do small game hunting anymore, and it's not because of any other reason. I just don't have time. I've got work, I've got family, I've got habitat work, whatever. It's just hard to find time.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever really got into it. It's probably good for the kids to go out and do some of that stuff.
It is, and that's how I've introduced all my kids to it. You know, they all started off with a squirrel hunt, a rabbit hunt. Then we graduate to turkey season. My oldest daughter was potty trained at 3 years old. Horrible to get potty trained. But I told her when she was 3 years old, she was wanting to go turkey hunting. I said, you simply cannot go turkey hunting if you wear a diaper. She never wore a diaper again.
Did she fully grasp what it was like going out turkey hunting, or did she just want to be with dad?
She loved being outdoors. You know, she loved the time with dad, and that's the way all my girls are. My youngest daughter will go hunting with me anytime. She has no interest in harvesting an animal, but she loves to sit out there. We talk, we giggle. She'll draw what she sees in nature. You know, she's my biggest trapping partner as well. She don't want to see the dispatch of the animal, but she loves to go on the trap line.
How old are your kids?
My oldest daughter's now married and has kids of her own. She's 20. My second daughter is fixing to be 17 in a few weeks. My youngest daughter is 15, and then my son is 7.
Okay. So you were all girls for a while, so I bet it was fun getting them girls out.
Absolutely. And when it comes to hunting like your bigger game, for me, it was easier to take my girls turkey hunting because they're more willing to go on a turkey hunt because you can get up and move around. You know, it's not that let's sit here in this stand in this blind for hours on end and possibly not see something. You get to hear the turkeys, you get to interact with them, and you can move around. If a turkey's over on the next hill, you take off.
I'm sure there was probably a few times where you wish they would have sat still at certain times.
There was more than a few times, yes.
Oh yeah, I don't have any kids, but I got a niece and nephew. They're 14, 13, 14 now, but I took them when they're younger. I'm like, just you don't have to talk all the time. Just be quiet.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are they still sticking with the hunting, or was that just something they did when they were younger?
They still stick with it. My oldest daughter, like I said, now she has kids, so the time's not there. My second daughter, Mackenzie, actually killed her first deer last year. It was her last youth season that she was able to participate in. My youngest daughter, I mean, she's not going to hunt. She'll go out there and sit with you. She'll help me clean and skin a deer, but she has no interest in shooting a deer, anything. She don't want to watch it die.
She's a lover.
Yes.
To each her own. Everybody's a little bit different.
It, it is. Like I said, she'll sit out there while I'm cleaning a deer. She'll help me pull the skin off of it. but she just doesn't want to watch it die. And I respect that. As a girl dad, you got to find things that you do respect. Now, my son, I mean, that boy's going to be a killer.
He wants to see stuff die.
Oh yeah, he's just chomping at the bit to get his first deer.
Well, 7's a fun age to get out there.
He's been going with me since he was about 4. I I went out and spent the money. I bought the tower blind. I know that that's not real hunting if you ask a lot of people, but if you have kids, I had to work an extra job so I could afford that blind, and I did not get one of your fancy brands. It's just a hard plastic shell. That was the best thing I ever bought to get my kids involved in hunting. You don't have to worry about them falling. You don't have to worry about them freezing. They can move around. It's wonderful.
You got plenty of holders for all the snacks and the drinks you got to take out there with them.
Oh, absolutely. If they want to lay down on the floor and play the iPad during the slow times, go for it.
That's a lot of fun taking kids out. I'd almost rather see a kid shoot something than me.
Absolutely.
What's one of the biggest things that has changed in your mindset of being a solo hunter versus having kids that are interested in hunting and focusing on their success in the woods versus yours? Has your mindset just completely changed?
When it comes to my kids, when I take them, it's a it's a complete change of my mindset because I'm a very focused person. I'm very tactical in what I like to do. I take it too serious. And my kids kind of called me out on that once, and I had to step back and go, I've got to make this enjoyable for them. I don't need to be checking the wind. I don't need to be checking the barometer, all this stuff. They just need to have fun.
What do you mean you were taking it too serious when you were hunting on your own, or when you're taking the kids out, you were still in the same mindset of you needed to do all this to try getting the kids the deer?
Exactly. I was still in that same mindset. I was in that mindset of what I was doing when I hunt, what I do when I hunt. And I could realize real quick, I'm running the fun for them. This needs to be a fun experience, not, a harvest doesn't make it a successful hunt, is what I had to come to realize.
Very true. My younger brother, I'm 37. He's 7 years younger. So when I was in the peak of my obsession, he was probably 12, 13, and same situation, except I never brought myself back. And I think I burned him out. And to this day, he still doesn't hunt.
That's what I was starting to see with my kids. It went from every time I'd go out, hey, can we go to, oh, I'm not really as interested. And that's what made me step back and go, Callie, you got to stop.
I'm glad you figured that out to a point. Well, I'm more glad that your kids actually brought it up.
My, you have 3 daughters. They'll put you in your place.
I was going to say, guys probably don't mess with them if there's 3 daughters growing up.
Yeah. And my son, he's the baby of the family and he's got 3 sisters. And one day I really, really worry for his wife. Because he's got 3 big sisters. I really worry for his wife. I mean, she's got to meet their expectations because that's baby brother.
I suppose when you're at that point where you're taking young kids out, how did your, how do I word this? Was your patience affected, or did it teach you a new level of patience that maybe you didn't have before?
I'm not so sure on that. And I only say that because I was always a very impatient person. But yet again, when you have 3 girls, and I had kids at a very young age, they taught me patience pretty quick. You know, just in the aspect of day-to-day life with them, they taught me patience. And on the hunting side, I've kind of always been more patient. Like I said, it was just that kind of tactical mindset of marking all your X's, dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's while you're hunting. That's what they changed with me. Enjoying the time with them.
It gets tough, especially when you have young kids and you're supposed to be out there at a certain time and they don't get ready very fast from what I've seen. You're like, "Let's go, let's go." You tell them to get ready, you come back in as you're ready to leave, and they haven't left the iPad. That gets pretty frustrating.
It does. I think the most frustrating point of taking kids hunting is you'll go out there, 2 hours before it gets dark, and they're just amped up, they're ready to go. You sit there, that prime time, that last 15, 20 minutes of shooting light, when in your mind, it's fixing to happen.
I know where this is going.
"Hey, dad, I'm ready to go. I've had enough." And you're like, "What? Just 15 more minutes? I'm kinda ready to go now."
You can't talk them out of it either.
Oh, no, you can't. It just kills you the whole time you're getting out of the stand.
Yeah, but overall, the experience of hunting with kids, did it kinda take you back to your younger years? And, the older you get, you get kinda competitive, and you go from just a hunter to a trophy hunter. Did it kinda take you back to a place where you can actually appreciate it some more?
It did. It helped me enjoy hunting more because I had got to that point where and I'm not a it wasn't a competitiveness with the other hunters. I would get focused on a mature buck, and you get so focused on that everything you do on that hunt centers around shooting that deer. And it kinda takes the joy away from it. You start stressing out, you start going into panic mode when he disappears, so on and so forth. It takes the joy out of it. And my kids did make me step back and go, "Hey, you're supposed to be doing this for fun."
Oh, 100%, and you say you don't, compete against other hunters. I bet you do. You already told me that story about your neighbors wanting to kill that buck.
What's bad is I didn't really have intentions of killing that deer.
Really?
I've got one neighbor that I was trying to help him kill that deer, which he did not, and I didn't know the guys across the road had been watching him all year. I was just in the aspect of, "Hey, here's a mature deer. Here he comes running. Let's get him."
I gotta take my sweatshirt off. I'm dying. If you could, I'm looking around for my ceiling fan remote. If you can tell I'm wandering because I'm getting so hot. Hopefully the people on YouTube didn't see my belly getting kind of chunky.
On the competitive side, now if you'd have talked to me 10 years ago, I was competitive then.
Social media competitive or just trying to kill a deer before your neighbors?
It wasn't even my neighbors, which the farm next to me sold 4 or 5 years ago, and the neighbor I used to have, he was a jerk. The new neighbor I have on that side is absolutely wonderful. We share information, strategy, so on and so forth. It was that competitive against my friends. It was that, "Hey, look at this deer I'm hunting." And, "Oh, well, look at the one I'm hunting. Which one of us can get this done fastest?"
I've grown out of that the older I get. There for a while, it was social media had a big impact on it. On okay, I want to kill a big deer so everybody else can see it. Well, that takes a lot of the fun out of hunting. But I'd say a lot of my competitiveness now comes from one, against myself, and two, if there's a big buck on your camera, he's probably on the neighbor's camera too. You want to get him before the neighbor. I think that's, in my opinion, that by far brings out the most, I won't say tension, but anxiety is, man, I want to kill that buck before my neighbor. And I don't think that'll ever go away.
I don't either, and like I said, the buck I did shoot with my rifle this year, I would have been just as fine if my neighbor killed that deer. That guy, he's a young man, he's hungry to learn, he's not arrogant, he's not so many things that you typically see with the 21, 22, where I was at 22. Just a really good kid, and we share a lot of information, and I would have been just as happy if he'd have killed that deer.
One of the best things I have done in my hunting career is the neighbor where I hunt. He always kills bigger deer. He's just a better hunter than me. He's probably retirement age. Bow hunted his whole life, been out to Africa, just a killer. And I used to not like him because he always killed all the big deer. One of the best things I ever did is turned him in from an enemy to a friend, and now we bounce stuff off each other, and it's just changed, taking a lot of the anxiety out of the hunting.
It does. I've got one friend that's that way. The guy is just he's a killer, and when I'm struggling with a deer, I'm like, what would you do on this? But he also does the same thing with me. I can't figure this deer out. What do I need to do? Because sometimes it's really nice to have that set of eyes that's outside of the box. It's like, look here, dummy, you're just doing this one thing wrong.
But is he hunting right next to you?
No, he is not.
Oh, it's tough when you got a killer that hunts your neighboring property.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, it's frustrating, and you can hate them all you want, or you can get on their team.
Yes, I've got a neighbor it's the east side of my property. Big time farmer, owns thousands of acres. You know, they hold a lot of big deer. So I spent the last 10 years changing things on my property so I could hold the deer. And the guy won't speak to me no more because I shot a deer that he had watched all year. And it turned into him going around telling everybody, well, he had to poach this deer because it was always on my cameras. And still to this day, that guy will not talk to me. And that was one of those things that kind of turned me off the whole jealousy to my neighbor thing. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't own this deer. They don't own these deer. The hate in the hunting community is already bad enough. I don't want to contribute to that.
It's always something. This deer wasn't old enough to shoot, or he poached this deer. There's something that I'll bring up a couple stories. One, there's a little kid that was messaging me on Facebook, like, man, I love your podcast. And he sent me a picture of a 180. He's like, oh, yeah, somebody poached this deer. And he's telling me a story how somebody poached it. I'm like, did you see somebody poach it? Oh, no, I heard that's what was done. Like, you can't do that, man. You're way too young. You can't talk crap if you don't know that somebody actually did it. You get so wrapped up in some of that stuff where it just takes all the fun out of it. Especially, I mean, it's different if you would have seen somebody poach a buck, but to hear stories that somebody else heard a story and somebody else heard a story and it just got passed down and you don't know what happened and you assume that's what happened because you don't have pictures of the deer anymore. I mean, that's going to ruin hunting for you so fast.
It is. It's that whole jealousy aspect. And I can tell you the new trend I'm starting to notice. For years it was always, oh, you should have gave that deer another year. Well, I posted it on Facebook, a picture of a 4-year-old deer with a simple question. Hey, all of your neighbors have tagged out. It's late season. Would you shoot or pass? You would not believe how many people immediately jump on there. Well, I only hunt for the meat. I only do this. I only do it for that. I don't worry about that jazz. Well, you're no different than the guy beating on a person for saying you should have gave him another year. We all have different goals. Let's all celebrate when we achieve those goals together.
You know, yeah, back to my story. I don't know if you follow Josh Bomar on social media, but he posted a video. He was just livid, like, oh, this guy shot my deer. And he was going off of, he had trail camera pictures of this deer out in the field that day. And then all of a sudden, pictures of deer running everywhere. And he just assumed that somebody shot that buck that he was going to let go next year. So he immediately got in his vehicle and drove down there the same day, all because he had a picture of the deer. Then 5 minutes later, pictures of deer running.
I seen that video. I did. I think I seen that on TikTok.
I mean, that's the kind of shit. I mean, yeah, you can be concerned about it, but if you think like that, it's going to take so much fun out of hunting.
Yeah, it's going to eat you alive.
That's a good way of putting it. It'll eat you alive, and it will.
And that's like on some of the aspects of us everyday guys and these celebrity hunters, as we call them. We're quick to tear these guys down. Don Higgins, he gets so much hate. It just kind of blows my mind. And if you'd actually ever sat down and talked to Don Higgins, a lot of these ideas that people say about him is because they're taking a video that's been clipped and that's their impression of Don Higgins.
There isn't an average hunter in the world that wouldn't want to be in their footsteps.
Yeah, absolutely. That was what I was getting at with the whole jealousy aspect. If a celebrity hunter kills a big deer, it's not because of habitat work, because he spends all year working on a deer herd. He's got a fence. Hey, if I had that, then if I had that fence and that property, I could kill deer too. The thing about it is, you could have that property instead of going to the lake every Saturday during the summer. Go do some work for your deer.
Not always, but this has a pretty big impact on the size of deer people shoot.
It does.
That's probably the number one factor. Or time. The guy that you were telling me that you watch his podcast that killed a 200 inch in Iowa, that's all he does. And if that's what he wants to do with his free time, go for it. But not everybody has that same mindset. I'm competitive with my career, just like hunting, and everybody has their own priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was getting at with it. If that if your goal is to kill big deer and that's truly what you want to do, instead of sitting back and bashing somebody for killing a big deer because they've made that their priority, that's what you have to do. And if you don't want to do that, that's perfectly fine. But let's not all tear each other down constantly, especially in this social media day, because somebody prioritized something, whether it was right or wrong, over something else.
Taken me quite a lot of years to figure it out, but the hunting season for these people that are consistently killing giant deer is a very, very small portion of what it takes to kill a giant deer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to spend probably 10 times as much time out there finding them. They're not just a lot of them, like Don Higgins is, I don't know him that well, but Seek One, for example, kills giant deer.
Yes.
He's not the type of person that sits, does all the work on the property and hopes a giant shows up. He goes out there and finds them.
Yeah. It's kind of like I can't think of his name right now. I won't remember his name, but same thing. He spends a lot of time and a lot of money to find big deer and kill them. That's not realistic for 90% of us.
And the technology's making it more lopsided, especially with drones.
Yeah.
These guys are going out and hiring people like, hey, go find me a 200-inch deer, paying for the pin, then going to the landowner. Oh, we don't let anybody hunt. How about I give you 10 grand?
Yeah. And that'll never be a thing for me. I will never have 10 grand to say to let me do that. Killing a big deer is not worth that to me. If I kill a big deer, it's because I want to and this is just myself personally. I want to do the habitat work. I want to watch this deer grow, the whole aspect of that deer's life. That's how I want to do it. I don't want to go and pay to shoot a trophy. There's no intimacy with that to me.
I like following the celebrity hunters. Good for them. I wish I was in their shoes. A lot of hate comes from jealousy, but one celebrity hunter that turned me off so much just from saying a few words is Lee Lakoski.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can get pictures of this deer. I can know what day I'm going to kill him. I know what deer I'm going to kill that day, what tree stand, all that. I'm like, good for you. You just ruined hunting for 90% of the hunting population by saying that. You put expectations on all these hunters. You make them feel like they're shitty hunters by saying that. I don't care if that's true. Don't come out and say that.
I just don't understand how that can even be true or how that could be fun.
I'm sure it's probably fun because I was thinking a while back, like, I suck at golf. It's fun when I actually have a good day. Can you imagine being Tiger Woods and just being so damn good every day? You probably still find a way to have fun with it. But I don't know, man. They've been hunting the same property for so long and running the trail cameras, exact same places. I'm sure they probably got it down to a T, but
And Lee owns a giant, giant portion of land. From what I've heard, I don't know Lee. I've never been to his farm. I've heard him say that he leaves at least 500 acres of row crop out all winter long. They'll go back in the spring and harvest it. That's not feasible for the common person. That's a lot of money. I, and most people will never get to that aspect.
And that's one of the main reasons I started this podcast, if not the main reason. People who don't understand, especially the younger generation, they think that's how it is.
Yeah, and that's kind of like with the whole celebrity thing. When you turn on social media now, it's 180-inch, 200-inch bucks just nonstop. That's not realistic for 90% of us. Not saying it can't happen, but statistically, break it down. You're not going to kill deer like that. Not saying you can't, but it's almost been put in our mindset that that's what we're going to go out there and shoot. That's why I tell people all the time, if you want to say you killed a true trophy, I don't care if it's a 110-inch 5-year-old. That is a true trophy.
I'm just, with this podcast, trying to bring hunting back down to reality. I don't know if there's another podcast out there. Every other podcast wants to get the big names so they can grow their views. And I'm just sitting at less than 100 views per episode. But if I can grow this eventually where the average hunter gets put in the spotlight and people actually listen, it will be a true success. And I think the hunting industry needs it.
I completely agree with that. We've lost that common hunt. You know, that common guy, the idea that it's okay if you're a meat hunter. It's okay if your goal is to kill mature deer. It's okay if you're happy with a 2-year-old deer every single year. And this is what I tell people all the time. But what's not okay is to get on social media because you've been so influenced by the new hunting industry to bash everybody that don't meet them goals. Was your heart pumping when you pulled the trigger, when you released the arrow? That's the part that we all want. And that could be on a button buck.
And even though the podcast hasn't grown yet, I've been doing it for 8 months. Social media is finally picking up. It's been growing like wildfire. I know I'm doing the right thing when I go to these Facebook groups and ask, hey, who wants to come on a hunting podcast? Just average hunters. And I get hundreds of messages. That's how I know I'm doing the right thing.
There's a ton of us out there. It's kind of like you was asking me earlier about my clientele. I speak to the majority of my clientele is your average hunter.
Going back to the roots of hunting, how would you define the average hunter? If you were to take a bell curve of hunters, you know, this end of the bell curve is going to be your celebrity hunters or people with a lot of money. This end of the bell curve is going to be the people that maybe just go out once or twice a year to hang out with grandpa. How would you define a majority or a large majority of the average hunter?
I think you look back 10 years ago and the average hunter used to be that guy that, you know, he went out opening weekend or rifle season. He might pick up his bow a few times, but I think you're seeing that shift. I think with the technology that we have, cell cameras, you know, Onyx, all this stuff, I think you're seeing people hunting more. I think the goals are still the same with most people. And I do believe that every hunter goes through stages. You know, you go through that stage of if it's brown, it's down. And there is nothing wrong with that stage. And then it turns into, I'd like to get a nice 8-pointer. And then some people grow past that of, I want to kill something mature. Well, usually it goes from, I want to kill a nice 8-pointer to I want to kill a lot of nice 8-pointers. And then it goes to the more mature thing. And honestly, I'm getting to the stage now in my life where I just enjoy being out there. It's nice to punch a tag, but I'm happy either way. I can go home empty handed with the experience of what I seen and be just as happy.
I think there's a big shift going on. We talked about 2007 to 2012, celebrity hunters were all the rage. People would line up at the Iowa Deer Classic to get Lee and Tiffany's autograph, and everybody was self-filming. They wanted to try to be famous hunters, and I think that gradually kept climbing until 2020, and I think it's going back the opposite direction now. I think a lot of the big-time hunting shows are dropping in views, and I think people are changing the way they think more so how they thought 20 years ago, if that makes sense. They're getting more back to their roots.
Yeah, I agree with that. Look, and a perfect example of that is look at the hunting public. Look at how they've grown with their shows. They're shooting deer like everyday people shoot. They're going out on public land and they're shooting, 110, 120-inch deer, and they're celebrating like we all should. If you harvest an animal, it should be exciting. We should be happy for each other. We're kind of getting away from that. Well, I can't say that because social media is vicious, you know, but you are starting to see more people do that. I think COVID and when people became, well, they couldn't go out to the city, they couldn't do this. You've seen a giant spike in hunters that year. And I think that honestly helped us get back to the roots of hunting.
Well, I think even I haven't watched a hunting TV show in a long time. I watch clips on social media, but the Kiskies, Whitetail Freaks were real big into the big name, celebrity. Let's get the most famous big time hunters we can to join our team. And I think they've even gone back to more of a family approach from what I've heard.
I think if you look at hunter numbers from well, the peak of the hunting, the peak of tag buying was in the 80s. It's been a decline since then. I think if we don't get that mentality within the next 20 or 30 years, we could very well lose the sport that we love. And we're so focused on tearing each other down that anti-hunters, they don't really have to mess with us much anymore. We do it to ourselves.
And it's hard. Everybody has their own opinions. Like, I'll blatantly say I have my own opinions on crossbows. But if they're legal, use them. I won't judge people out loud for using crossbows during archery season. But I can say all I want. But deep down, I know if that's what they want to use, go for it. I might still have my own opinion about it, but go for it.
I actually made a post about this on Facebook, and I don't even know, it was a ton of comments. And I just asked a simple question: do you think crossbows have affected archery season? And you've got people on both sides, and everybody's asking my opinion. I'm like, I personally will not use a crossbow, but I'm also not going to beat down Joe Bob across the road for using one, because at the end of it, hunter numbers are down. We're outnumbered. Look at Antifa. They got 14.7 million members. PETA's got like 13.5. We sold 15.5 million tags last year. We're doubled. I know those numbers because I'm a trapper. And if you really want to get a lot of hate, post a picture of a coyote and a trap on Facebook, and every animal rights activist in the world will come for you.
I mean, we can disagree a little bit on the hunting numbers. They've definitely gone down. Well, they've actually stayed flat. I did a lot of research on this for the company. But per capita, compared to the US population, per capita hunter numbers have gone down. They've stayed somewhat flat, but I think a lot of it, and I mean a lot of it, has to do with access.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's used to, you could go anywhere around my neck of the woods and get permission to go hunt on a farm. Yeah, that's just not there anymore. People, you have the whole insurance worry. You have the people with money that can pay to rent these properties. And I have no problem with people that lease properties. I don't have a problem with non-resident hunters. But yes, for the common average guy, access has became very limited.
Are crossbows allowed in Missouri during archery?
They are.
Okay, they're not in Iowa, and I have a strong argument that if they were to allow crossbows, it would not increase the number of hunters.
I agree with you because you can look at Illinois and their stats on that once Illinois actually started allowing crossbows. What you do see is 57% of their deer now are harvested by crossbows. So you do see that. I You're not going to see the hunter recruitment like that's being claimed from allowing crossbows. You're not going to see that.
It's not going to increase numbers. You're going to see people go the easier route.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
I like how Iowa does it. It's not allowed, but I truly believe if somebody needs a crossbow to get out in the woods, they should have access. That's how Iowa does it. It's illegal unless you're not physically able to pull a compound bow back. And then at that moment, game on. And I agree with that.
And that's exactly how it was here in Missouri for years. That was you had to have a doctor's note so you could use a crossbow.
What do you think changed that allowed crossbows?
You're wanting to really get deep into this hot Missouri debate, aren't you?
I do.
Money,
How so?
because you don't see the technical increase in hunters because those same guys was buying rifle tags. So I mean the number was there, but they wasn't spending the $20 on archery tags every year.
So, not necessarily adding more hunters, getting the current hunters to buy more tags.
Yes.
That's unfortunate.
That's just my opinion. The MDC is a very, very hot topic in Missouri right now. There are 10,000 groups on Facebook that's ready to burn them alive at the stake.
When did they start legalizing crossbows?
Don't quote me on this. I would say it's probably around 10 years ago, maybe longer. I really don't know. I don't mess with it, so I've never paid attention to that aspect.
What percentage of bow hunters, when it was compound and trad only, switched to crossbows once it became legal because it was an easier method of harvest?
I don't know the actual factual numbers. What I can give you is the experience of my friend group, so to say. The guys that we would get together, we would shoot bows, you know, we would share hunting stories, and I would say 90% of them now are using a crossbow. I can't even get somebody to shoot a compound bow with me anymore.
Just because it's easier or extended range?
I think a lot of it's I can't say it's easier aspect, which it is. I will not, it is way easier. I think we've gotten this mindset, we want that instant success, instant gratification. Well, if you're working 45 or 50 hours a week, when you get home in the afternoon, how many times do you want to shoot your bow? And you get in that mindset, well, I don't really need to practice because I can pick up my crossbow and I'm good to go. And I think that's what's happened with that.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. And for all 20 listeners, if crossbows are legal, by all means, use them. We're not going to judge you out loud. But, I mean, use whatever you want. But at some point, the line needs to be drawn. And you're not only crossbows, cellular cameras, drones. If the line keeps creeping, which it has been creeping, cell cameras, drones, at some point it's going to go from hunting to just killing.
And I think we're really close to that. You look at these states that historically produce these Boone and Crockett sized deer, right? They're not doing it no more. And they're not doing it because it's so much easier to kill a deer now. People are more efficient. I mean, just like you said, we have cell cameras. I've had a drone fly my property 2 times this year, Still have no idea whose drone it was, but I know what they was doing, and it drives me nuts, and there's nothing I can do about it. And with cell cameras, I use cell cameras, and I will flat out tell you it's a lot easier to kill a deer running cell cameras. What gets me with the crossbow guys, see, you've done made me do it. Just admit it. It is easier. You don't want to put in the work. I'm not going to knock you. I'm going to celebrate your harvest, but stop making it out like it's something it's not. It's just like with a rifle hunter. I shot a deer with a rifle this year. I could not have killed that deer with my bow.
I mean, we can have these conversations and people are going to get offended like we're destroying the hunting community, and maybe we are. Everybody has their own opinions, but when I posted something on Facebook, it was, "Oh, I bet you're using a compound bow. That's not a real bow."
Oh, yeah.
It's all goes back to where do you draw the line?
One of the funniest things I see, which I do, I stay out a lot of the crossbow stuff. If it's legal, do it. I'm not going to knock you for using illegal means. But one that does get me is I've got a friend, and like he will come at you hard about these crossbows. And I just asked him one day, I said, you're tearing this dude down about his crossbow. I said, I don't agree with using a crossbow, but you're picking up $1,000 rifle a week later with $1,000 scope and beating down on him for it being easier. Uh, we're just destroying each other. I think that only unable bodied people should be able to use a crossbow. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. If you have a physical disability, use it. I don't like crossbows all season. The whole other comment of, it helps get kids hunting. Well, Dad, do your job and take your kid hunting. You don't have to give him a weapon immediately to kill a deer. Have you taught him woodsmanship? Does he know why he's killing that deer? Or are we setting this mindset in the youth of, hey, you can pick this up, not do much, and go shoot a deer and post it on Facebook?
I was one of the unique ones where you can only hunt during the rut with a trad or a compound bow. And there's just something so special about that, that if you want to experience the most magical time in the deer woods all year, you have to do it with a stick and string.
Yeah. See, that's another spot that everybody in Missouri gets all fired up about. The peak of the rut is when our rifle season is.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I don't like it. It's kind of like the whole 2 buck law we have. You can kill 2 bucks.
Don't like it either.
You can hear people say, "Oh, if we go to a 1 buck state, it would really help." But realistically, how many common people are filling both those buck tags every year? Would it really make that big of a difference?
Oh, it makes a difference.
I mean, how so? How many people do you know, your everyday hunter, that fills both buck tags?
I don't, but proof is in the pudding in the state of Indiana.
See, I just have to. How big of a change would it make? If you're not killing 2 bucks, if you're mainly killing 1 buck, maybe it's the whole selective idea of you'd be more picky of what you're shooting. I get.
What you're saying makes a lot of sense because a lot of people don't kill 2 bucks, but Indiana went from an afterthought of big deer. They're top 5, no questions asked right now.
They are.
You know who Cameron Coble is?
I do not.
Follow him on Facebook. He goes around scoring deer, and he posts a lot of insights like this. And he'll be the first to admit he goes all over the Midwest scoring deer. And he said that's one of the biggest factors of getting big deer.
I could see it making people more selective of what they shoot.
And that might be it too.
You're not going to shoot that 100-inch 8-pointer if that's the only buck tag. And with that argument, I can understand that. But man, in Missouri, I don't know if these guys care. I think they're still just going to shoot that 100-inch 8-pointer.
Well, most of them are just going rifle anyways.
They are. And that's the whole other debate in Missouri right now is if we would move rifle season out of the heart of the rut, it would make this giant difference. And I could see aspects of that. And I would be perfectly fine if they done that. But I still think that 90% of your deer in rifle season, they're getting shot not because they're chasing. I mean, the peak of the rut's when your big deer are locked down. I think they're getting shot because they're being pushed by other hunters.
Going back to crossbow, in Iowa, there's an early muzzleloader, and I think it's, let's say, the second and the third week of October. If people want to push so hard for crossbows, why couldn't, let's say, if Iowa 100% had to bring in crossbows for any hunter, and if they asked me, they're like, we're bringing crossbows in, nothing you can do about it, but we'll let you pick how it works. I would say all archery season, you can use compound, trad, or if you physically need to use a crossbow, you can. But I would say the first 2 weeks leading up to the peak rut, let's say even the last 2 weeks of October, if you want to use a crossbow, you can use it then. Outside of those 2 weeks, the rest of the archery, it's either trad, compound, or if you're physically disabled, not all archery season, or just not bring it in.
I think that would be great. The problem you have in Missouri right now is rifle season's almost all archery season anymore. With the whole CWD nonsense, you've got early doe in October. You've got a youth season, which I'm all about the youth. You've got rifle season, which is 14 days. You've got late doe season, and then alternative methods, which I mean, what everybody's done in Missouri is they go buy a pistol that they can put a stock on. That's a rifle now, but that's a legal method. They just got rid of our CWD rifle season. That was rifle season would go out, but if you was in a CWD county, you got another 5 days of rifle hunting.
It's a money grab is what it is.
It is. And they announced 2 days ago they put because MDC was going out and doing they was murdering deer over corn piles with thermals at night for CWD testing from February to I wanted to say April. I might be wrong on those dates. Just massive kill-offs. They did announce that they put a pause on that.
Who was doing this killing?
The Missouri Department of Conservation.
Perfect timing when you can't tell if it's a shed buck or a doe.
I think last year they shot, I'm wanting to say is about 5,000 deer over corn bait piles with thermal scopes at night. All the stuff that we get giant tickets for.
That would be a lot of fun, though.
It would be.
How do you know if they're a buck or a doe?
It don't matter. It's in the name of science. You shoot whatever comes to the corn pile. You see why everybody in Missouri's been in an uproar now, don't you?
Especially if that's happening on a neighboring property to where you hunt.
Yeah. And they've been doing this. I think they started this in 2012. And they announced a week ago they've put a pause on targeted harvest, but now they've declared all of Missouri a CWD state. Who knows what that even means?
Oh, what the? EHD kills way more deer.
I don't know if they kill as much as the MDC, but
Natural cause of death, CWD versus EHD. It's not even close.
no, it's not. I completely agree. I just don't know if EHD at this point in Missouri kills as many deer as the MDC does using poaching techniques.
I've yet to hear of a whitetail population getting anywhere close to being wiped out from CWD.
You're never going to hear that because it's not going to happen.
EHD will.
Oh, absolutely. Look at the poor state of Ohio this year. I mean, they got hammered with it. I've got some clients down there. They went from seeing 30, 40 deer to a hunt, and they're like, I don't even know if there's 30, 40 deer in our county anymore. and it was a massive EHD kill off.
That's gotta be so damn heartbreaking.
It does. And when you start getting into the whole CWD thing, you can't do mineral sites anymore. You can't do supplemental feeding in the off season. It restricts a lot of what you can do. Now, I understand a lot of guys don't even care about doing any of that, but you're saying you're doing this for the health of a herd. So when the deer at the end of January till March, when there's no native browse out there, you can't go throw an alfalfa bale out to help the deer because that could hurt science. And it just don't make fun. It don't make sense to me.
When I was getting into, like, my peak competitive hunting, that's when they came out with this CWD, this, that. I was so scared it was gonna destroy the deer herd.
I think, and I could be wrong on these numbers, out of the close to 5,000 deer that they killed in the after season kill off, they tested all those deer. I think it was less than 1% of them tested positive for CWD.
That tells me it doesn't spread very fast.
That's my thought. Now, if you can show me science or data to change my mind, I'm always willing to listen. But nobody can do that. They can throw you some graphs of Wisconsin. They can throw you some graphs of some stuff they done in Arkansas or Colorado. They can't show me massive kill-offs from it, though, other than the kill-offs that they're doing themselves.
My thought is, and I'm familiar with Iowa, maybe not the other states, but when they first announced that CWD was starting to show up, Iowa was at, like, the ultimate peak population. And honestly, I don't know if they knew the effect of CWD at the time, but let's say they did. What if they're just using that in their back pocket to control the population?
Well, I mean, I think Missouri's the funding that the MDC got was in the tens of millions of dollars every year for this from whoever it's coming from. Tens of millions of dollars to study CWD. Now, can you show me any studies that's been done?
Yeah, I think it was about 2010, 2012 when they started talking about CWD. The population of whitetail in Iowa was through the roof, double what it is now. And you get so much money in the back pockets of people for car insurance or this or that or crop insurance. Who knows? Maybe they knew CWD wasn't as bad as what they claimed it to be, but they kept that in their back pocket to, oh, if we got to limit the population, we're going to just wipe out this deer herd.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's 2012. You guys got hammered by EHD in Iowa. It was bad. But let's not talk about that because there's no funding for it. There's no money going into anybody's pocket for that. But we've got this CWD. It's been around since the 60s. And if you could show me one study of a deer herd dying off from it, I might change my mind, but nobody can do that. Nobody can show you that.
Mother Nature will always correct herself.
Yes. That kind of goes back to my whole trapping roots. If you let your raccoon population get so big,
Which is getting pretty big right now.
and what happens is they get distemper and they have a massive die off.
That's all EHD is,
It is.
a correction of Mother Nature.
It is. And hunters are conservationists. My thing with them shooting deer after season, give the hunters more tags, do something. I don't know, but shooting deer over corn piles with thermals just does not set right with me.
Especially when you don't let the hunters do it, and especially when you can't tell if it's a buck or a doe.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, this stuff's getting me fired up, man.
I get pretty fired up a lot from it. And right now, I mean, it's just all the rage in Missouri. With the whole CWD concept, you have a lot of people and they pull out the whole auto insurance thing. And insurance companies told them they was going to have to start paying for damage. I can't believe that just due to logics. Insurance companies are national, right? There's more vehicles that hit deer in West Virginia, and I think it's 4 other states, than in the state of Missouri. So why wouldn't you be paying their conservation to do it? I think it's a money grab, but I think that there's a lot of speculation that's not true about where the true money grab is.
It's coming from somewhere,
It's coming from somewhere,
and it's
absolutely.
not in the best interest of the deer herd, I can tell you that.
No, it is not. And people will rail against you on both sides. Just show me the science. I mean, we've got drones that can count every deer out in the woods. Why can't you show me some stats where, hey, this is legit? Because you can't.
Auto insurance and crop insurance, they got some pretty deep pockets.
Crop insurance has got some real deep pockets. Absolutely.
Back when we were at peak population, they were mowing through a lot of corn, the deer were.
Well, that brings up a whole nother, the depredation tag. I don't know if you guys have that in Iowa, but I mean, a farmer here can get 50 tags, shoot deer all summer long for depredation purposes. They don't.
That's the thing. They're giving them to the people that don't utilize them. Farmers aren't going to sit out there and fill all those tags.
I was listening to I think it was on the local news or something, and there was this suburb up in St. Louis, Missouri, and the population was getting really out of control. They was paying this company $250,000 to come in and shoot the deer out of that subdivision. The reason it was on the news is because all the hunters finally got together and said, if you'd just let us hunt this, you guys could save a lot of money. And they're actually considering that.
They should.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt anybody's safety if they allow it to archery only or something.
These were hired sharpshooters. It was doing the same thing as the MDC. They was shooting them at night. But you're talking about paying $250,000 to have people come in. I think they was shooting 245 deer is what I think they was wanting killed off every year.
Hunters would pay to hunt that stuff.
Exactly. But where's that money coming from?
Makes you wonder. Deep down, I feel like the Iowa DNR has pretty good interest in the deer herd, but they don't have full control over it. There's money being thrown around elsewhere that changes their way of thinking.
I completely agree. It's just like with the Missouri Department of Conservation. We have wonderful agents. We do. And it's not your local agents doing this. It's the lobbyists. It's these guys making legislation that know nothing about deer that are enforcing all this stuff.
Like if a giant farmer that's sick of deer destroying their crop gets in the office, you can bet your butt he's going to try changing the laws to impact the deer herd.
Yeah, I would say so.
Makes you think, man. Politics in general, it's all about the money.
It is. And people can make their stand, and it's a wonderful thing. But how much impact can we have anymore? Because we can't find a way to unite together to make that impact, it seems.
Money will always win.
It will. Just kind of like the whole discussion from earlier about the guys that can shoot 200-inch deer every year because they had the money. Money always is going to win that.
Not always. I won't say money is always the number one factor for killing big deer, but money can kill you big deer if you have it.
Oh, absolutely. That's the best way to consistently kill giant deer every year is money.
Don't get me wrong. If I had a lot of money, I'd be more than happy to kill 200-inch deer every year.
Yeah,
That reminds me, I better go buy a Powerball.
I'd be happy to kill a 200-inch deer one year.
I'd be happy to see one. I've never seen one.
Absolutely. I can't say that I've not seen one. I've never seen one while hunting, but I have been on the guy's property and I have seen a 200-inch deer. I was not hunting. We was actually scouting the property.
Did it make you shake a little bit?
I mean, I thought it was an elk running across there. I didn't know a deer rat could get that big.
Was this in Missouri?
No, it was not.
Where was it at?
Not Missouri.
Well, man, I know we got off on a tangent, but normally spend most of the time hearing stories and stuff like that, but like of your hunting journey, but we got a little sidetracked.
It happens. Sometimes I hit a rabbit trail and I circle.
We agree on a lot of things, apparently. That's probably why we got off topic.
Most likely.
Well, to get back on topic, before we wrap this up, my ritual is making every guest share a couple of their most embarrassing hunting stories to kind of bring everybody back down to earth. We all have them. A lot of people are afraid to put them out there. So why don't we break the ice and hear a couple of yours, man?
I've got a bunch of these.
Well, we got time.
I think, and anybody that's ever duck hunted has probably had this same story. But my wife, we've been married, we've been together since high school. She went duck hunting with me one time. And, I was the macho man. I was in high school. I was that young teenage idiot. I was that 2.5-year-old buck running around and got the decoys loaded in the boat. You take the boat, you push it out, you push all your stuff out to the blind. And I got in the water, macho man showing off for his woman, and my feet went right out from underneath me. And I don't know if you've ever filled your waders with water when it's about 30 degrees out and you're trying to impress a girl, but that's pretty embarrassing.
Hopefully you didn't have any playtime later. It's gonna be like old Seinfeld. I was in the pool. I was in the pool.
Yeah, I was froze to death. Actually, this was before school.
Really?
Yes, we had to get to school. That used to be a big thing. You go hunt right before school and hope you're not tardy for class. That was back when you could drive to school with a shotgun in the back of your truck and did not go to jail.
I was gonna bring that up. You can't get away with that anymore.
No, you can't. And it's kind of a sad thing for kids nowadays because you could have looked out in our school parking lot. Like I told you, everybody was a duck hunter. There's probably a shotgun in every single truck out there.
Changed pretty fast, didn't it?
It did.
You got any other embarrassing stories to share with us?
I had a ladder stand. I bought this real cheap ladder stand. It's like, I think they're like the Buddy stand or something. Is that Walmart special?
The big boy or I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's got the big metal seat. Well, when these things first came out, they snapped together. Your platform and everything would fold, but your ladder just slid in. And I had it in a tree. I was bow hunting. It'd been raining for like a week. And this taught me a very valuable lesson. I was crawling down out of that stand. I got down to that second or third step. Well, nothing held the ladder together. And in that soft mud, it just sunk completely down. So I'm hanging there for about 10 minutes. They're 12 foot tall, but I was just sitting there hanging, trying to figure out what I'm going to do because the ladder was on the ground at this point. I hugged there. Finally, I let go, which wasn't very tall. It didn't hurt me. I was limping a little bit when I got back up to the house, and my dad just started laughing at me. He said, "That's why you put a 2x4 under your ladder."
He knew what happened without telling him.
He knew exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, I have one similar to that, except this one you can actually put like the pins through.
Yeah, they done that like 2 years later, I believe.
But the bottom of the stand doesn't touch the ground anymore. It's a silver maple, and those bastards grow fast. The silver maple is literally like grown into like you can't even sit down anymore. My brother got in it once. He's like, "Dude, there's no strap on this." I'm like, it ain't going anywhere."
I could probably share a lot more. I just don't know if they're appropriate. And now my dog's gone off.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. Sounds like old buddy's getting hungry.
He is. Yeah, it was fun talking with you. Hopefully you continue to grow in your podcast, and it'll be exciting to see what happens.
No, we just got to get these stories out there, don't we?
Absolutely.
All right, man. I appreciate your time. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you.
All right. See you, buddy.